most people are spending their entire lives spinning their wheels, thinking that they're getting out of stress and that they're doing the right things to deal with their stress, not even realizing that they're just making it worse and worse and worse over time.
Most people every day, they take about 28,000 breaths per day without even knowing the freaking power of it. If most people just simply did this, they would feel wildly more control of their life.
Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Emilia.
Stress management.
Whew.
This is hands down one of the most important topics we could ever teach, because there is not a single person on this earth that doesn't deal with stress and that doesn't feel stress at least once a day. But almost none of us actually know how to appropriately deal with it. You know, like I said in that intro, most people, and Emilia and I, we talk to people every single day. Like, how many stories have you heard of someone being like, well, I did this and I did that and I did this and I did that, but it didn't work, but I did this and I did this.
So many.
It doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
Most people are doing things that aren't actually making themselves truly feel better. And what we're going to dive into today are the not sexy, but real ways to actually deal with stress so that you can feel like a frickin' warrior and in control of your own life.
So, yeah, stress, I mentioned earlier that we on average take 28,000 breaths per day. Like, holy crap. When I learned that stat B, and it's a little over under that depending on who you are, but when I learned that stat B, I was like, wolf. First of all, because that's not a number that I bet most of us really know. Number two, because I think it's an incredible opportunity just in terms of like reps, how many opportunities you get per day to really have a sense of control in your life. Not only have a sense of control, but actively practice the rhythm of your own stress cycles. I was on a phone call the other day with a client B, and we were talking about, she goes, is there such a thing called bad stress? I'm like, yeah, definitely. Not only that, but like she goes, I know like bad stress is, because we were talking about the different types of stress, eustress. She's talking about how like in work, she's trying to tell her boss that like she wants more on her plate. She can take more on her plate, but even though she's stressed at home, she still wants more on her plate. And her boss was like, nah, we're not going to give you more. And she's like, I think I need to distinguish like what type of stress I'm actually under. So we got in a whole conversation around it, but it was cute. She asked that question and I was like, yes, there actually is. Anyways, why I mentioned that is because it's a huge opportunity. Every single day is an amazing opportunity for all of us, including you and I, to really catch ourselves in every single moment that we have and that we're taking a breath, to really check in where our central nervous system is. And the best habit of doing that, it is in the mindfulness of not only the breath that you are taking, right, from inhalation to exhalation, and the timing of which you apply some of the techniques that we're going to get into in just a moment, but also like the moments that are going to challenge you the most. And so B, I mentioned before that I want to share with you a little story that I have of my past, because this one will definitely demonstrate for anyone who's ever traveled a kind of an extreme case, but I do want to make sure that we pull this in, because had I done these practices, these 3 techniques that we're going to get into in this episode, had I done them and had this level of training that I do now on mindfulness, on breathing, on stress regulation, emotional regulation, central nervous system relaxation, I probably would have decided a few things differently. So I want to take you back, B, to take us back to, I was in college. I went to university, and I went on a study abroad program, right? I told you that. And this program at one point gave me or opened up the opportunity to live in London for a time. So I lived in London, Kensington, very posh, what they call posh place. And
Posh.
yeah, very posh. And
Did you meet the Spice Girls?
I don't know.
Posh Spice?
No, I didn't.
Sporty
But
Spice?
no, I didn't. As a matter of fact, within, gosh, my memory files are coming up, so it's going to be a little crusty crust because these are like old stories, I'm telling you. So let's wipe off the dust. Long story, but one of the things that is critical to know before I share what actually happened is I was on the way to the Tube, which used to be a place to get around London. We didn't have cars, right? And one of my best friends, Jess, at the time, we were going to go to a market, just like flowers, grocery shopping, etc. And so you would take the Tube in and out of London to different towns, different places, etc. That was like our commuting, right? So I ended up actually falling down the stairs and breaking my ankle.
No.
Almost died actually because of how close my head came to hitting the metal at the end of the stairs. It was freaking terrifying. So anyways, I'm studying abroad, traveling abroad. I want to say I was probably 2 months in at this point. And so that is the preface of what I'm going to share in just a second. But here Emilia is over, just studying abroad, living life, like just totally wanting to suckle every little golden nugget out of my experience abroad. And in the UK, right, in the United Kingdom, living there, coming from the United States where it takes so long, it's like such a big to-do to get anywhere in the US, freaking 6+ hour plane ride. You take the Tube and you're in another country. Like you take the Tube or you travel and the plane rides are like so simple and so quick. And so I had every opportunity to make sure that I went to different countries, and I've traveled around the world now, 13+ countries. And a lot of it was because of the way in which geographically London was situated amongst all the other countries in Europe. And so I had planned and lined up one weekend to go what we call spelunking. And spelunking,
that's a real thing.
It's a real thing. It sounds like a pretend word, but it's not.
I thought that was a pretend word.
No, it sounds like it. And honestly, I have no idea where it came from. But I wanted to try out spelunking. And there was like these different trips where the program that I attended, they had like sister programs, and like the universities within the UK had all these like, discounts for college students. If you wanted to go on, let's say a student organized trip, you would go somewhere that's well traveled for a weekend, and then you would come back before your studies. And so obviously being mindful of my test and my studies, I had weekends lined up to where I was going XYZ place to go do XYZ thing.
To go spelunking.
And this was Wales to spelunking. So now, mind you, I just told you that I had broke my ankle, right? I had all of these trips lined up, and I tell you, like, living my best life, I'm like, all right, we're going to go. So I didn't even say what spelunking is. Guys, picture.
I can only imagine you freaking hobbling with your broken foot all across London, like trying to get shit done. That must have been wild.
I was cool. I didn't hobble. I had a scooter that I got where I put my knee on it and rode around. Not. I'm not even lying. The elderly people, the young kids, they thought I was the coolest person. I can't tell you, I was one of the biggest celebrities, I think, in London at that time because of my ankle, but more importantly because I was so cool and I had a scooter. And I have pictures to prove this. God. I may or may not post it on my Instagram with a little backstory one day. So anyways.
So funny.
So I'm not just hobbling around London and making my way, although I had crutches. God. But then I got this really cool scooter, so I was like literally putting around in. Like, anyways, I had to go to. I'm like, I'm not gonna not go spelunking. Like, and the doctors are like, you need to do physical therapy. You are gonna be in this cast for like another 2 months. And I'm like, bruh, I have 2 months of adventures and things that I'll never probably get to do again. I am not going spelunking. Spelunking is cave diving and going into the ocean to where you get to climb without any ropes the side, go like you get kayaked, or you literally picture a beach. Okay. Picture a beach. You walk in and you have life vest like on, but enough so that you can dive. You have a helmet on. You have full blown scuba gear suits because the water is freezing at that time, but you have like a headlamp and everything, and you go walk into the ocean and you swim out, and then you find the rip tide practically, and that takes you around. You swim kind of close to the shore, and you have to maybe climb up past certain caves and whatnot to get to other caves. And it's probably like a group of 12 people, and you have obviously one person who's like a licensed professional just in case there's medical issues and whatnot, things where you have to be airlifted. Shit, it's actually like a hardcore thing. So now do all of that with a broken ankle. And that was what I was going into.
God.
So then you can have the opportunity to go diving into caves. Some people, had the option to, if you wanted to spend the money, get a kayak so that you're not swimming through the freezing water. Anyways, long story short, I'm like, I'm going. I can't not go. Very stressful though, because I've never been to Wales before. It was, seemingly a really cool trip, but so we go, right? It's like a nice little Airbnb type. We have 12 people. By the way, half of the people I don't even know. So it's nice meeting friends, what have you. And people might be at this point asking, like, what the heck does this have to do with stress? Guys, I'm telling you, when you have a broken ankle, you're going into freezing water, and you're about to go cave diving, when you straight up have claustrophobia, you can imagine it's a little nerve-wracking, and the
You're
stress
claustrophobic?
is just building. At that point I was. Yeah. And now, honestly, I don't really want to be locked in a chest or in a cave, right? Like a little bit. I've worked through it. But yeah, fun fact. So we get out, and this is like the big day hike, right? So this is
Oh my God.
you go to base, and then you have to hike out. Everyone gets a little tiny map. And I'm telling you, we're in the bum F of nowhere in Wales. And for anyone who's been in like a nature version of Wales, you don't have cell connection. I'm talking, it's like you're out there and you may or may not see a mountain goat. There's no civilization where we went, practically. And I know I'm sounding dramatic, but at that point in time, like where we were at with technology, it's like you don't go anywhere without your cell phone. Imagine that now. So no cell phones. You have a medic kit, like you're all geared up, and you have to climb out to this giant mountain, and then you have to go and scale your way down all of the rocks to the beach, get in the water, the freezing cold water, and then keep up with the crew so that you don't get left behind or catch a riptide. Swimming, helmets, everything, and then go to cave diving. So there was moments of like awe and amazingness. But after that, you weren't just done, because it was like a 2 to 3 hour hike just to that point. Mind you, I still have a broken ankle this whole time. Straight up couldn't have my cast on because of the level of boots that I needed and the gear that I was having. So
you're doing this without like the cast on your foot?
Yeah, I was kind of dumb, but I wrapped it up. Honestly,
You're freaking reckless.
I was reckless.
We are not advertising for this. Please don't do what Emilia did.
They even went through a medical checklist. Does anyone have any medical issues? And I straight up,
nope.
I was like, nope, I'm all good as gander. So like I had to take off the cast before I even traveled there. So it was whole thing. Anyways, looking back, like, geez.
Oh my God, anyhow, that's okay, so funny.
So we get done spelunking, and then everyone goes off, and it's kind of like the Naked and Afraid like TV series that you have. Because you're out in the wilderness, and at that point, once you're done spelunking, you have to climb up these like caves just to get to the nature overlook. And your guide at this point just goes in and makes sure that everyone gets out. And then you have to find your way back. Everyone had a pair of two. Everyone has to find their way back to camp. So you're practically in the middle of nowhere. You have no idea how to get back to camp. You don't have any cell phone connection. At this point, your guide is like, you're good. You made it out of the caves alive. Cool. I'm going to go back to base. If you guys don't come back by 6 o'clock, there are search parties that will go out after you. So be-
No way.
because I was kind of the weaker link of the bunch, I was, and not only that, but I love nature. I don't remember the girl's name who I was partnered with, but she was really sweet. She like was going at my pace and whatnot. We end up scaling to the top of this mountain after we did the spelunking. But then we realized like at that point the sun was like kind of like we were behind the group for sure by like at least an hour. So we're like, all right, we gotta hustle. We gotta hustle. At one point in time, there was no person for like a solid 2 mile radius. We like no human being. So our entire crew had like gone. And we're looking at this little map and like we don't even know where we are. And at this point, it was kind of that like, well, might as well enjoy it while we're here. Cause it was like, we don't know how we're gonna get back. So straight up, imagine in the middle of the whales, you have no idea that broken foot. I'm like, are there bears out here? Like I don't even it's like what's gonna eat me, kill me, like and or are there like like I don't know. So anyways, at one
Hell
point
no.
at one point we were just like, you know what, F it, we're gonna find our way back, we got this, and I'm out here hobbling. So we took a couple detours, and I used one of the polyvagal exercises that we're gonna get into today to help relax my nervous system, because at that point I was starting to go into a little bit of a panic. Like, what if she all of a sudden decides like she can't take, her distress tolerance, her stress levels are too high because she's never been out here before. And this girl, I think she was from like New York, so she didn't grow up gritty like I did, and I knew that she wasn't as big of a fan of the outdoors as I was, so that was a high probability in my mind.
Hey everybody, my name is Isaac. My experience with Evolve has been nothing short of phenomenal. The community, the Evolve Ventures Society, is just a group of people who are all like-minded and growth-oriented, and you can ask questions and get support from anyone, and it's a really private group and you can share and be open, and that's what I really love about it. Emilia and Bianca have been nothing short of phenomenal, honestly. The amount they care about their team members and their mental well-being and their mental health and improving everyone's self-awareness in terms of being growth-minded and growing to where you want to be. I could not have asked for a better place to be at right now in this point in my life. And yeah, have a great rest of your year ahead and keep evolving, everybody.
All right, fast forward. We end up on our way back across this like farm. This farm that had like a billion, like not a billion horses. It was probably like 25 horses. Beautiful. We came across this random person and his dog, and we're like, do you know where the next road is? Like, can you point us towards somewhat of civilization? And he didn't talk English. He didn't speak English. So it was just like, oh my God, we don't know what to do. Turns out we make it back to base camp. We eventually find our way back, and we got back around like 8 o'clock at night. Mind you, we left at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. When we got home, all of our people that we showed up with had got like trained back to where the program we had it back. They had sent a rescue party for us. Apparently there was a helicopter involved. They didn't find us, and they thought we were dead. Now, none of this was told to parents because they wanted to make sure that there was at least 24 hours before there was any emergency services. But so we get back to this camp, and these people are like, oh my God, we thought you guys were dead. And the host, it was like this cute little old couple that like have been doing this with college students. And like we were the first ones that like never came back. And so they were freaking out. They were in hysterical. And we were like, we're back. We're okay. So now comes the de-stress your central nervous system from something like that. Like I said at the very beginning, if I had the stress regulation techniques that we're going to talk about now in the aftermath of the story B, I can imagine we probably would have chosen differently. I would like to believe that we wouldn't have been as reckless, but we didn't have a journal. We just knew how to survive in that moment based on what we had been taught to that moment. So now that you have learned a little bit about that story, the spelunking story.
Hell no. I would have panicked. I would have freaked the fuck out. I would have lost it. I would have been that girl like in the corner freaking crying like, we're not gonna make it.
Yeah, there was a moment where the other girl definitely got there.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that was fun. But anyways, lots of stress. And,
to say the freaking least. I mean, most people aren't gonna go through an experience like that. But
that's
the
why
fact
I said it was
that
extreme.
Well, but the fact that you were able to do that, like, number one, in the moment, because you said you were doing these deep breathing exercises all throughout. Your ability to be able to do it in that really extreme circumstance is really good for people to hear so that they know that they can do it in these more minor everyday circumstances. Like if you can do it when you're freaking lost in a foreign country with a broken foot without your your scooter and a busted ass map, like you can do it on the day to day.
It was the only control I had, to be fair, you know, like seriously. And so I go back to, yeah, it's not the experience that everyone's going to have. For more often, every listener that listens to this, they're not going to have that experience where they're practically dropped in the middle of the wilderness by their own accord, with a broken ankle, without their scooter, without their phone, without any really great direction. But what you do have in those moments, as we do have every single day, is the ability to put focus in on our nervous system and where it's at, and the breathing techniques that we have available to us. That is always within our control.
In that moment, you said it was the only control that I had. How did you get to that, though? Because most people would be in an experience like that and they'd think, I have no control. I don't have technology. I don't have anything available to me. I'm in literal danger. Like I actually could die. How did you get to a place where you're like, okay, what control do I have? And then lead to deep breathing exercises and like mental journaling.
Yeah, it actually was mental journaling. So, you know, one thing looking back that is very obvious now, I clung to probabilities in the moment to get to the deep breathing exercises and the polyvagal, like stimulating my vagus nerve to where I was starting to feel a sense of calm. That doesn't mean it was actual calm, right? There's two things. So thinking from a space of probability, meaning what my head said was like, well, what's the probability that we would actually die out here? Like, based on how I know this program has been really well run, I know that they wouldn't put us in a situation, or at least I'd like to think that the probability of two kids getting lost, or at the time, like two young adults getting lost, like that's probably really low. And I was like, what do you think the murder rate is in Wales? And my brain was like, literally going through that, like, what's the probability that we run into like this like old farmer that is like a murderer? Like I know
like an axe murderer with his dog and his goats back.
Yeah. And so my brain was trying to calculate those probabilities. Now, mind you, did they know anything about? Did I look up those stats before going on this spelunking quest? No, but I did try to think about it from a rational standpoint of like, the odds are if like a lot of people were to get lost and have similar situations like this wouldn't be something that's like put on the map as like highly recommended, you know, like, so in that moment,
that's a CBT technique. It's called testing the evidence.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So the very first thing that you did was testing the evidence. I'm in this situation. There's these things going on. What is the probability that we're actually in danger? You don't have to be a freaking math genius to do this. Like I teach clients to do this all the time, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
You're trying to gather as much rational thought processes as you can, because when you're freaking out, your mind starts going to the most wild freaking circumstances. Emilia's like,
tigers here, like
It's just like a giant tarantula is gonna come out with a bear. They're gonna hold hands and
Not
they're
only
gonna
that.
chase us down the road with this goat behind us.
We came into one of these caves, like we had gone down to the beach because we were like, fuck it. At this point, like, we're out here, we're lost. Like, if we're going to have to find shelter, like, I went into like full blown like Bear Grylls Emilia. And I was like, we're going to have to find shelter. Like, what's the probability of that? But then I was like, I always was terrified of Creature of the Black Lagoon growing up. I don't know if
I've
you've ever
never
watched
seen
that
it.
movie.
Nope.
It's terrifying.
Absolutely
Anyways,
not.
I thought my brain started playing tricks on me to the point that you were just making. We're like, oh, this lagoon, it looks like where the Creature of the Black Lagoon would be. So it's like, and then when there was this cliff, because we're literally walking on top of cliffs, my brain was like, you're gonna fall off. If you look over this cliff, you're gonna fall off, right? Like, kind of taking in the awareness that I have about like riding horses, where you look, you end up moving your body, right? And so like my brain was doing backflips, as we do.
Okay. Did you do the breathing exercise first or did you do the thought testing first?
Honestly, I think it was breathing first, then thought, then breath, and breath all along. Yeah.
Okay. So you do the polyvagal breathing, which is basically long exaggerated inhales through your nose and then the exaggerated exhale out of your mouth while doing like, you can do like humming or something while you're doing it. So it's like as you're breathing out. So that's like one way to do that.
Yeah.
Then you're gathering the evidence and you're testing the evidence that you have. So basically you're thought challenging. And then after you're doing that breathing exercise to regulate your nervous system even more.
Yep. And I was mental journaling, like you said earlier, like,
okay, cool.
How am I feeling about the situation? What resources do we have at our disposal? Do we go back? Like, kind of journaling out, like, okay, you know, and it happens so fast throughout, like, and as we kept going, like, is this a good idea? Like, how am I feeling about this? Does everything that I've learned about nature, you know, like the sounds, the smells, like how close you are to the coast, like all those things, like that was like almost like my little nature log, mentally journaling of like, what do I know about civilization, where roads start from the seaports? Okay, there's got to be a seaport and all that stuff. So yeah.
Nice. Okay. That is so fucking funny. I can't.
That's the short version too. It's just
I
like
can
looking
only
back right now.
I can only imagine how much more is a part of that.
I want to share this with you.
Job.
This is not a best habit for dealing with stress, but it was at the time one of the things that we did. We saw this beautiful area. So like, if anyone knows what like the Cliffs of Moher, which is in Ireland, looks like, that's kind of what we were trekking along. It's these giant cliffs that are right up against the ocean in high elevation. So if you fall off, you're practically dead because the drop is that high. But we saw this one area that was opening and it was a cliff and there was just like a path that looked just like a path where you could go out and stare at like just the whole ocean. And that point, we again were kind of in that cost sunk bias. Like, yeah, this is stressful, but like might as well enjoy it. Like we don't see like how often do you get this opportunity? And then she like this girl, she walks out and she starts stripping off her clothes and she flashes the ocean.
Oh my God. I love that for her.
And I was like, yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. I'm this stressed too. And then we just like she went and got her clothes on and when I went out, I have this picture of like me flashing without any like tits. But like that is not the best habit for dealing with stress. But
I mean, it kind of is though. Humor.
Think about this though. The opening of your body to like just the somatic, if you're watching us on YouTube, the opening of your body and like putting your arms out there, your central nervous system feels more expanded than contracted. Humor absolutely helps you regulate stress. So like not everyone's going to be flashing when they're stressed out, and that's not what I'm recommending.
Free the titties when you're stressed out. Just straight up, just rip your shirt off and let them loose.
Take off the bra. Maybe you're too stressed out. Take off the bra. See how it feels. Let the girls loose, right? Like, no, in all seriousness. Right, it's gone off the rails. I'm so sorry. This is why I don't tell stories.
No, this is perfect. This is perfect. Okay. So we talked about a couple of different techniques here. Number one, surround yourself with good people who are going to be able to kind of be in the mud with you, right? Or like help you get regulated when you're in stressful experiences. So when you're stressed out, do not go to your paranoid friend. Go to someone who's more grounded and who can help you gain some clarity. Number two, deep polyvagal breathing exercises. So slow, deep breaths, let it go all throughout your body. It really does calm you the hell down.
Peep the ocean breath.
Yeah. Number three was thought challenging. So you're gathering evidence, you're challenging the evidence, you're testing the evidence. It's a lot easier than you think it is. And it's something that if you guys needed help with, reach out. We teach people how to do this every single day. Number four, open somatic expressions / humor is a good one. It helps your brain kind of get out of that fight or flight state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Fun. Thank you for the wrap up.
What is your episode suggestion? We need to make an episode called Free the Titties.
Free the titties for it. All right. So, oh gosh. All right. So I put this episode suggestion in here very strategically because of the fact that Simone Biles has had and been under the performance stress. And so she has sworn by therapy. And so my episode suggestion where we talk about that is if she can do that, even if she's an Olympic performer, the things that she does help so wildly much. So 383 Simone Biles swears by therapy. Here's why you can too. B, what's your final takeaway and episode suggestion?
Mine is 391. Why does growth suck so bad? Final takeaway. I'm kind of going to reiterate what I said in the beginning. We all deal with stress. The people who have the best quality lives are the ones who learn how to handle it the best and most effectively. So if you can learn how to deal with stress better, you're going to have a much better life holistically. Awesome. All right, everybody. This was a fun one. We're going to definitely keep doing episodes like this. So stay tuned, saddle up. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.